Can someone find my F-35 fighter jet? I think I lost one.
I want an F-35.
So yeah, so do I, right? I mean, Top Gun, nothing. So it turns out that the Marine Corps back last September couldn't find one of their F-35 jets.
What?
No, right? This is how bad our military. And you know what they did?
How do you lose a jet?
Wait. It goes down over. It was a training run over South Carolina. They couldn't find it. So you know what the guys do? The United States Marine Corps calls 911.
No, Robert, I can't
Ericka,
right now. I can't.
Ericka,
right now.
Wait. You know me, right? I mean, so the United States Marine Corps frantically called 911 after losing an F-35 fighter jet airborne mishap that led to a crash in South Carolina. The $90 million stealth jet went missing on September 17th. The pilot ejects, lands in some guy's backyard. He calls 911, right? And the guy, the owner of the house goes, well, we got a pilot in the house, and I guess he landed in my backyard, and we're trying to see if we could get an ambulance to the house, please. Right? Hands the phone over to the guy. Now, a couple days later, they find the wreckage. But how pathetic is our military? And no disrespect to the men and women who serve in the military. We're talking about the leadership here, folks. We're not talking about the special ops or the people that go and do bad. We're talking about those. We're talking about Secretary of Defense Austin, who goes to the hospital and doesn't let the commander in chief know he's out of commission. Right? Hey, can you find me my F-35 jet? I seem to have misplaced it.
Don't they have like tracking, like radar, like a black box? Is that not a thing still? What is it so stealth we can't find it? Like we hid our keys from ourselves? Like
I don't know. All I know is,
God, Robert.
And why wouldn't you send out another plane? And you're going to call 911. What do you think they're going to? 911 doesn't come to your house if there's a robbery or a break-in in time. You think they're going to find your stealth F-35 $90 million bomber that you somehow can't find in South Carolina?
Was the hope? Were they like, oh, just in case somebody's hurt, we need to let you guys know a freaking plane crashed in your neighborhood? 90, you guys, this is why, oh my God, this is why I say defund the government. Okay, defund the government. They are not responsible. It's like we gave toddlers hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars of our money to go do nonsense with.
Well, we really didn't give it to them voluntarily, right? Because if you don't pay your taxes, these $85,000 new IRS agents who now are packing heat or carrying heavy, as the expression goes in New Jersey, where I'm from, right? Going to show up at your door and make you an offer you can't refuse, which is basically pay it or you're going to jail, right? So, right. Hi, I'm from the IRS. I'm here to help you. But let's segue, because I also want to talk about what's going on at the border. What we talked about last week is, taking on the new Civil War. There is now a burgeoning conflict between Governor Abbott in Texas, who's putting up chicken wire, right? By the way, do you notice it's okay to put chicken wire up around the White House, but it's not okay to put chicken wire across the border to protect the country? So Abbott is basically saying, screw you, to the federal government. We're going to take care of our own. Sends the Texas National Guard to the border. The Biden administration petitions the Supreme Court, who says that the federal government, can take him down. And there's a constitutional crisis brewing because Abbott and several other states have said, we're not going to follow that. And let's remember, the Supreme Court also said that student loan forgiveness is not constitutional, excuse me. And they're now doing a workaround. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But at some point, the federal government is probably going to try to nationalize, which they're, based on the law, entitled to do, the National Guard. And then the question is, like the French Revolution, which side does the military land on?
This brings up an interesting conversation. A friend of mine who is, very heavily involved with the Libertarian Party, Olga, the Libertarian Party chair of Vermont, there's an organization called Defend the Guard, and they're actually trying to make it so that the federal government can no longer call out the National Guard. That instead of the president being able to utilize the National Guard, that they would have to be basically returned to state and only the state control. And watching this play out, now I actually really understand why that organization is actually doing a good thing that we should probably put a little bit more energy into. Like,
so, and for the people who, are not political junkies, well, I guess if you're listening to this, you are a political junkie by nature, but in case there's one or two of you who are not, the number one issue in the New Hampshire primary that the voters cared most about was illegal immigration. Now, we are a border state. It is a northern border, of course, not a southern border. But the fact that illegal immigration is now the number one issue for voters in a state like New Hampshire tells you that this is a powder keg, right? Yes. You have, under the Biden administration, I forget the number, but it's something like 3 million a year illegal immigrants, and that's what they're documenting.
And that's what they're catching. Those are the people who supposedly have asylum claims.
Right. So how many more are not? Right. So again, we talk about where do we go from here? But if illegal immigration is your number one issue, this is going to be an interesting election indeed, because, and you got to give Donald Trump credit. He calls it out in 2016, and he may have done it in a way that, I'm sorry, offended people's sensibilities and hurt their feelings with mean tweets. Right. I get all that. But he's the one who called out the illegal immigration was an issue. He's the one who called out that China is America's number one enemy in the world, not because they're our enemy, because we're theirs. Right? China has declared war on the U.S. in economic, military, and frankly, even, if you look at their Belt and Road Initiative, it's just Trump's the one who's called it. Trump, who made us energy independent, only to be given back by the Biden administration. Right? So.
Yep. And there are people who actually are still trying to claim that the problem with energy is not Biden's fault, that it's OPEC's fault. And I'm like,
come again with that?
No, that's not. They're not totally wrong. They're just mostly wrong, right? So if you interfere with domestic energy production, that makes us dependent on foreign countries like in the Middle East, then we literally are at their whim. Like, that is literally, what are you talking about? These are, again, I said this earlier, were you just born yesterday? Do you not know how these things interfere? Do you not understand speculation, the stock market? If we cut off sources, if we shut down refineries, what do you think is going to happen to the price of energy?